Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm back with a bonus idea video, and today in this video I'm going to talk about the bonus ideas for the maze activity, right? Now remember, maze is an activity which we have as part of our beginner scratch program. So this video we shall look at what are the things that students could do to potentially earn bonus points, right? And just recap with a little bit about bonus as I do in all of these videos, just to remind everybody of uh, the basic rules, right? So bonus comes after basic, which means you must make sure that you understand the concepts. In this case, the concepts are those of sensing blocks, the if-else conditions, and so on and so forth, right? So you must remember that bonus comes after basic. You always earn bonus, right? And what you can do for bonus is almost endless. You can really make these games as complex as you want. Uh, Also, what earns bonus today may not earn bonus in future, right? That's because really the level is going up. And as we always say, bonus is your opportunity to push yourself, try out new things, and amaze everybody. However, remember rule number one, that bonus comes after basic, right? So with this prelude, which I've already spoken about many times, let's get on with the, what you could do for the maze game, right? Particularly, right now, it actually turns out that, maze game is one of those games where we see a lot of creativity from our students, right? In fact, we've got some really fascinating projects in this thing, right? So we tried to sift through those projects and came up with a list which might be helpful, right? So broadly, the first thought that comes to my mind, right, is that you should make your game very lively, right? Now, Maze is a game where there's interaction with the user, right? So, user is playing while there's a character which is moving around and so on and so forth, right? So, you could do, for example, one of the things that comes out is you could do some kind of costume changes when the main character moves, right? So, it looks like it's moving, right? Maybe it kind of moves his hands or something like that, right? So it looks like the character is moving, or it could be a mouse which is really looking like it's running, right? In the same token, you should add some music and sounds because that's what makes it lively, right? So yeah, in general, making your game lively is a definitely a bonus material, and there are many ways you can do it. That's your imagination, your creativity, right? Now, the next thing that comes to mind is adding lives, right? Now, remember in the class game, the game got over the moment our character touched the maze, but that need not be the case because we can really have more lives. So we can create, let's say, 3 lives or 5 lives, depending on what you want. And similarly, you can add a score, right? Maybe you can add some measure to, let's say, some bonus material for the sprite to catch, right? And then once it catches it, it adds a score, right? Or it could even be something like, say, how long did I take to cover this maze, right? So if I go fast, I cover things faster, but then it gets risky because I can get out, right? Now all of this, right, will require using variables, which we will learn in a later class, but it's not so hard. You can actually try learning on your own, right? So, and you can try using it here, right? Next, you could create more than one levels, right? In fact, this two, probably the first three are the most popular among students. So, a lot of students make multiple levels, and that's certainly a bonus material. And basically, what happens when you cross through one level and go to the next level, perhaps the maze changes, right? Perhaps maybe there is some other paths that you have to navigate, right? And I have given examples in the description of this video where we will tell you some of the really nice projects which have used these ideas, and you could use those too, right? Next, you could think about something more innovative, something, let's say, not more but something also innovative, which is to perhaps have a single level, that's all right, but create a maze which is very complex, in the sense that if you, for example, click a key, maybe the design of the maze changes, right? In fact, there was a project that we got where the story is such that you have to keep changing the maze to complete the whole game, right? I've put that in the link down. Look at it. That might give you some ideas too. So that's a case of a complex maze within a single level, right? Then again, a very popular feature with a lot of students is to add obstacles and boosters, right? Now, what are these, right? Really, basically, these are probably other sprites which are maybe going around in your arena, and your sprite, that is the hero sprite, must avoid them, right? So, if it touches these as well, then maybe it either earns a point or it could, lose the game, right? So, this makes the game much more interesting than having just a static maze. You should look at it, right? So, you could have, for example, some moving sprites, or probably some areas which are colored differently. So if you touch that, something happens, right? So that definitely adds, features to your maze, right? Finally, you could think of something quite futuristic, I would say. I mean, something quite thought expanding. Is that, remember in our game, we are creating a maze, or say we are importing a maze and then we are playing with it, right? But what if you could use the pen extension, right? Remember, we have done drawings with pen, we made a square or we made shapes. So you could really draw mazes, these maze, walls dynamically, right? So as the program goes, you maybe change the nature of the maze, right? Probably from level 1 to level 2, you dynamically draw this maze, right? Now this is not easy because this will use the pen extension, and also it might require using writing some custom code to do so. So it's not easy for sure, but it's doable. And in fact, we have seen some projects where people have done ideas which are similar to this. So I thought I might mention this here, right? So let's just recap these in context of the game that we did in the class, right? Remember, the game that we did in the class was actually very simple, right? So we have this monkey which is moving around, and it has to go around, and it has to basically go and catch the banana, right? So I can stop it here, and it loses the moment it hits that wall, right? So the first idea that we said is that you can give some life to the way the monkey moves, right? So here monkey moves and its costume is not, for example, not changing, though we have music. So probably you could choose a sprite whose costume could be put under next costume, or say switch costume, and it looks like it's moving, or it's jumping, it's running, something, right? It's doing something when it's moving. uh, the next idea that we said is that of lives, right? So for example, here the game gets over the moment I touch the wall, but that need not be the case. So what I could do is to go to a variable and say make a variable called, let's say, lives, right? And I set it to, for example, say 3, right? So if I set lives to 3, so I can use this command, set lives to 3, and every time I touch the black color, maybe lives decreases by 1, right? And once the lives becomes 0, then the game gets over, right? So that has added a dimension of programming complexity, but also a dimension of an interesting element to your game, and certainly that's a bonus idea, right? Now notice that this game also has only one level, but probably it could be that once once my monkey reaches to this banana, right, it goes to a new level, right, where we basically, let's say, uh, change the backdrop, which has got a different set of lines, right? And like I said, there are some examples, very very nice examples in the description of this video. You could take a look at those, but that definitely will require control programming, and very likely it will require something called, either you use when the background switches, or an equally powerful method would be using broadcast, right? So when you go away from level 1 to level 2, you broadcast level 2 and everything starts again, right? So that requires effort to get it all set up nicely, and hence that becomes a bonus idea, right? Then we talked about this, this whole idea of a complex maze, right? Notice this maze is very very simple, right? But for example, I could have a situation where, let's say, when I press the space bar, right, maybe the maze changes, and then I must come back again to this maze by pressing the space bar, right? And again, that requires switching backdrops, doing a lot of control, doing a lot of um, let's say, a lot of programming, and that's why we call it a bonus idea, right? Next, I talked about obstacles and, let's say, moving obstacles, right? So right here in this maze, right, the way it's drawn, maybe I could consider, let's say, making this particular thing, instead of a drawing, I could, let's say, create a new sprite. So I create a sprite, I go paint a sprite, and I just say, look, I will make let's say, a sprite like this, and make its, say, make its outline rather large, so it becomes thick, right? And it appears there. And now I can essentially put this here maybe, and I can make it move, say, up and down, right? So I can use glide onto this sprite, so that becomes like a gate which my monkey must cross, and my monkey must look at, when this is moving up and down, and accordingly I must cross this, right? And touching this sprite could also lead in the game getting over, or lives getting reduced, right? So that certainly is a very powerful bonus idea. Look at the videos in the description, and look at the projects in the description, and you will get some clues from there as well, right? Finally, I talked about dynamically creating these mazes, right? So where I come from there is that, remember, in this particular game, we had chosen a backdrop where we had drawn this maze, right? Now, some of students I know like to import a maze, that's also fine. But any case, right, the backdrop is where the maze is appearing, right? But instead, what we could do, remember, we have done drawing in the in a previous lesson. So we could go and add a pen extension to this, right? And then we basically get the code to to, let's say, we can create a maze creator sprite which draws all this for us as part of the program, right? So what that could do for us is that it could really make the game very, very dynamic, right? Because I can have many levels, and each level I go and make something, right? In fact, we will, in the advanced part of the course, we do a program which is quite similar to this, though not a maze, but the similar idea could be applied to a maze, right? But that's, like I said, requires fair bit of knowledge of my of this, the pen extension, of course, and also most likely you have to use this thing called my blocks, right? So that is not that easy, but it could be done, right? So let's just say that there are many, many ideas even before that, which is basically revolving around making the maze lively, making the maze having many levels, having lives, score, having moving obstacles, and I think those are the really the play field where you should be exploring, right? So try these ideas, explore them. Most importantly, like I always say, enjoy this process, right? Because when you enjoy, you will be creative. When you will be creative, you will be learning, and the whole thing is a loop, right? The more you learn, the more you'll enjoy. All right. Take care then. Bye bye. Thank you.